Thank you, Mr Chair, for the opportunity to speak to this bill. As a couple of members of the Labor Party who have already spoken in this debate have said, Labor is supporting this bill. We recognise that the living alone payment allows people who don't or can't share costs if they are over 65 to apply for this special allowance. And at the moment, as the previous speaker said, one has to apply for it when one becomes single, usually on the death of the partner, and that this bill simply allows that to happen automatically, so someone who's been through a bereavement won't necessarily have to go through the bureaucracy, and obviously that will be a difficult time for someone who spent many years with their partners, and at a time when there has been a bereavement, the last thing you necessarily want to do is to go through the paperwork in order to get a little bit more assistance. Mr Chair, I can't let some of the comments go that have come from the other side of the House, because Melissa Lee in her contribution to this debate had a crack at this side of the House because we didn't support the government's growth agenda. Well, if there was one, we might support it, because the only growth that we've seen to date of any note is the growth in unemployment. The growth in unemployment. So Melissa Lee didn't mention that. Up to 7.3, the worst unemployment rate since 1999, which I believe was the tenure of the last National Government. So when Bill English was the last Finance Minister, that's when unemployment was at its worst. And again, we're back up to the high highs of 7.3%. And then Jamie Lee Ross got up and said, we're happy with our record. So this National Party is happy with 52,000 Kiwis leaving every year, 1,000 a week, leaving to Australia because that's where the brighter future is. Maybe that's what Nationals should have said back in 2008. We'll give you a brighter future by giving you better opportunities and more motivation to go to Australia. And if you're happy with that record on that side of the House, Mr Jamie Lee Ross, well, you know, the people of New Zealand might have something to say about that. And is he happy about the record that they've got, having the worst economic record in 50 years? Is that government happy about that record, Mr Speaker? And also, is this government happy about the record where 50,000 more people have become unemployed in the last 4 years under their watch? Now, are they happy with that record? And then the very good chair of the Law and Order Committee, Jackie Dean, said, well, you guys over the other side should get consistent. Well, yes, that government would know about consistency, because this year they've been consistently awful. Consistently awful. Whether it be privacy leaks at the IRD, whether it be no pay, whether it be larger class sizes, that government would know a thing or two about consistency in 2012, because this is a government that has been consistently awful over the last 12 months. Mr Chair, I'll just go back to the bill now, if that's all right, and just to give a bit of context, just blowing the system out before we go on holiday. Just looking at the context of these payments, because I understand from the regulatory impact statement, and I'm very glad that they've given us a table, that about 555,000 people are getting some form of New Zealand Super or Veterans payment. 73,000 are single and not getting the living alone payment, and there are 151,000 who are single and receiving the living alone payment. So we're not talking about an insignificant number of people here that are come under the changes that are within this bill. And as of April the 1st, 2010, someone who is married in a civil union, de facto couples, are receiving after tax $244, I think, per week. Those single not receiving living alone payment get $293 a week, and those single and receiving the LAP are getting $318 per week, and this is as of April 2010, so there may have been changes since then. So it is making a difference, this a little extra bit of money. I think my calculations roughly say that it's about $25 more for these people after tax. So just for those at home who might be listening to this with great interest, there is quite a bit of money involved in here for those people that come under this bill. Mr Speaker, this bill obviously ensures that single superannuitants and veterans pensioners who are living alone don't have to make that separate application as I spoke about before, because this will make sure that that it's much more streamlined for them when they become single. There are also a number of technical changes that within the bill that Labor is not opposed to, but there are some things that we will want to look at changing during the committee stage by putting forward some supplementary order papers. We do have concerns that there are provisions in the bill relating to dependent children that may not take into account the diverse range of situations that superannuitants and pensioners may find themselves in when it comes to living with their children. The bill will amend this. The bill will amend this exception to provide that a person who has a child living with them can only receive the new single living alone rate until the end of the calendar year in which that child reaches the age of 18. And I think there will be a supplementary order paper, and I'm looking at Dr Rajan Prasad, and he is nodding to that effect to make sure that is fairer. Because, for example, where a child is over the age of 18 but may have an intellectual disability and could still be classified as a dependent, or when a child is temporarily unable to support themselves. But on the whole, Mr Chair, we think this is a relatively sensible bill, and that's why we will be supporting it with some changes to be looked at. Sir William Seo, someone's got a bit of Christmas cheer over there, I see. Sir William Seo mentioned that there were only two submissions to the select committee process, one from the Dunedin Community Law Centre, where they did foresee some problems with the Section 4A, as I've mentioned before, for superannuitants, and they said that this section for superannuitants and veterans pensioners where the dependent child is enrolled in tertiary education, children begin tertiary education when they are 17 or 18 years of age. A standard bachelor's degree takes 3 years, which means at the very least a child enrolled to do a nursing degree, BCom, LLB, BA or BSc, etc. may not be financially independent until they are at least 21 years of age. And they propose that it may be more prudent to have a 12-month clause than making this exception only till the close of 31 December in the year that the child was turned 18, because this clause meant that a parent with a child born in January is able to access the living alone payment for longer than a person who has a child who turns 18. Grey Power, Roy Reid, very good man, who has helped us with our Stop Asset Sales petition, also highlighted this point in the submission from Grey Power. Grey Power said it must be recognised that many parents do have children born much later in life than used to be the norm. Some single parents may, without alternative income or savings, wish to support the child through the time that the child is receiving tertiary education, and there could well be some cases of undue hardship which may need support. So, Mr Chair, just highlighting those two submissions from the Select Committee stage. We hope that there'll be a few SOPs that may be able to address some of those, but with that, we'll just say that Labor will be supporting the bill with some concerns, and I wish everyone in the House a very Merry Christmas.
Mark Mitchell.
Mr Speaker, I think